Have you ever known a sweet cat who can turn into an instant tornado? It's remarkable how much misery can be inflicted if they get surprised or they feel trapped by an alien of any species. Do you know a cat like this? Has this ever happened at your house? Well, I have a story for you. Happened at the house of some people I actually know pretty well. And so, by the way, if you know a situation like this, or you have seen it, or you have, any question about cats or dogs, behavior, or other physical problems of any kind, I'm residency trained in veterinary behavior medicine with many years' experience in general practice. There's hardly anything I haven't seen in all this time. And by the way, in case I haven't met anybody here, I'm veterinarian Dr. Jeff Nickel, and this is one of our two kitties, Gaston. We're right now dogless. At some point that'll change, but we're not quite ready. And here's Tony. He's shown up as well. So let me know you're here and tell me where you're from.
Cindy.
And Cindy is here. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming, Cindy. And thank you,
It's
Carolyn.
heavy, so be careful.
Let me see if I can set this down over here. There we go. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. So let me tell you a story, and I'll start by showing you the players. These little guys. Carolyn, would you hold this up to the iPhone there real close? There. I hope people can see that. The black and with a little bit of white, that kitty's name is Batman. And the other guy, can you hold it up again one more time? And the other guy is Thor. And that cute looking little beagle type little guy is Marley. Thank you, Carolyn. And that's important because these two kitties, Batman and Thor, are litter mates. They were raised together. They're about 2 years old now, and this situation happened only a few months ago. And they've known Marley, their dog, all along, and they're very happy there. They lived in the same house with Mom. Her name is Susie, and her two children. One is Annette. She's about 10, and her younger brother is Bobby, and he's 8, and they do very well. Mom and Dad have split, but they have a very good working relationship. Very common situation nowadays. And this story is about Dad visiting. And he had his own dog, who of course lived at his house. And his name was Tony T. Hi, baby. Hello, honey. Oh, don't have to be a naughty boy. Gaston, you going to take off? All right. Well, you're welcome to come back. There you go. Anyway, let me get my notes so I can tell this story properly. Batman does not like visitors. He's got a history. Whenever people come to visit Susie's house with her kids, Bobby and Annette, Batman always goes to the other bedroom, hangs out under a bed. Well, now that's telling us something, and we're about to find out, why respecting that need for security and seclusion, that needs to be respected. Oh, Tony T, what are you doing, baby? Do you want to come up here with me? Well, come on, son. Actually, Tony is a cat who has learned to come when called, but, not with 100% reliability. Are you coming up? Well, come on, honey. Well, that's a good boy. There you go. Thank you. So anyway, I have Tony now. He doesn't like visitors. So Dad came to visit his children, and he wanted to bring his dog Max, this big old goofy, thank you for the hearts. I think that means that people can hear me. So a big old silly Max. And I don't have a picture of Max, but he's a big golden retriever, young guy, active, very sweet dog, gets along with everybody. But the problem is that cats, unless they live in a home where there is comings and goings of other creatures, and they have learned to accept that when they were in their sensitive developmental period of their brain, what we call the socialization period, which in cats is aged 2 to 7 weeks. It's much younger than dogs. And of course, most people don't know that. And these two kitties, Batman and Thor, they were, Charlene. Charlene is here. Oh, wonderful. And Cindy is here.
Darren.
Excellent. And Darren, oh, that's great. Okay, whoops. There we go. People are back now. Okay. Anyway, thank you for coming. Even if you don't have cats, you might find this interesting and useful information because, we talk about cats and dogs all the time. Well, of course, they have a few things in common, but there are big differences between these species. So, anyway, here comes Dad. and he has his big old golden retriever Max, who gets along with everybody. So it never occurred to Dad that this would be a problem. So he comes into the apartment, says hello to Susie, his former wife, the mother of the children, and says hello to Bobby, his son. And he decides he's going to go visit Annette, his 10-year-old daughter. And she's in the bedroom, and she has Thor and Batman with her. And it just didn't occur to anybody that this could create a problem. So here's what happened. Batman's already under the bed when he hears Dad and Max, the big golden retriever, show up. Nothing happened when Dad and Max entered the room, at least nothing that anybody noticed. But I can assure you, I was not there. But Max was just absolutely agitated because he and his brother, Thor, they were not accustomed to this kind of visitor, and especially big dogs. They understood Marley, and people think, well, they know a dog, they get along fine with him. Wouldn't another dog be okay? Oh no, because as babies, they were not accustomed to that stuff. So here they are, 2 years old, and here comes big old Max with Dad, and they come clumping into the room, and Batman's under the bed, and he's just freaking out, but nobody can see him. So when Dad and Max turn around to leave the room, that's when things really started to go sideways, okay? But Batman followed Max, the golden retriever, out of the room and immediately went after him as he was leaving. Now, why would a dog or a cat go after somebody who's leaving when that's what they wanted all along? Well, here's what happens. Dad and Max, the golden, came into the bedroom, and there's a cat under the bed. Now, you know, cats lived with people its whole life. Shouldn't it understand that it's safe under there, and when everybody leaves, everything will be okay? Well, the truth is that our cats and dogs are something they share. They are certainly domestic pets. They belong with us and in our homes. No argument there. But the truth is that their genetic behavioral programming is all about survival in the wild. And among all the different things that are a part of that is the freedom to make a choice to go anywhere they need to go to stay out of trouble, create distance, feel better, get out of harm's way. Well, so here we have them living in a building with walls, and rooms like a bedroom aren't that big, right? 10 by 12, maybe 12 by 15, something like that. And for a cat, that's not a lot of space. How the heck is Batman going to create a whole lot of distance and hide out someplace where nobody can find him? You know, we think of cats as a predator species because that's their natural state, to live by eating small creatures like rodents. But they're also a prey species, meaning that their fundamental genetic behavioral programming, doesn't matter that they are pets, they still think like this. I could be somebody's lunch. So here comes this great big guy, Max, many, many times their size, tail wagging, happy guy, tongue lolling, and who would worry about that? Well, the body signals from a dog are not understood by a cat innately. These two cats have gotten to know Marley, their own dog, but somebody else scares the daylights out of him. And so he hid under that bed when Marley approached with Dad, but when Marley and Dad turned around and left, he was still highly agitated, but he wasn't, staring down the face of that big dog. So he went after him to chase him out, and he went after him with a vengeance. And he went after Batman, or after Marley, but of course, both cats are highly agitated. And you think, well, where's the logic in what happened next? Well, I can explain it. But Batman couldn't get to Marley the golden retriever fast enough, but Thor was right there. So he redirected toward the creature with a pulse who's closest, even though they're brothers, and went after his brother. That kind of redirected aggression, because he couldn't quite get to the target, happens all the time. And you think, well, that's not logical. Well, you don't try to put a lot of logic on these intense emotional behaviors, which fear and aggression certainly are. So he goes after his brother and leaving big clumps of fur. Well, it wasn't over yet. He then went after Bobby, the 8-year-old boy who was just shown up, having heard all the squalling and caterwauling. And so Dad immediately thought, my goodness, I've got to do something about this. He's a big, strong young man, picks up Max the golden retriever to carry him out of there. And in doing that, Batman was picked up by Mom, by Susie, who then scratched her because he was trying to get away. And then Bobby, the young guy, he's just standing there trying to figure out what he should be doing. And he gets scratched and bitten on the head to the extent where he actually needed medical treatment. He had to go to the emergency room, didn't he?
He had stitches.
And he had stitches. That's pretty serious. And this kid is only 8 years old, and he loves pets. Now, mistakes were made, quite obviously, right? Good grief. You know, they all have said, if we could do things over again, we certainly would. Well, I guess so. From the behavioral perspective on these cats, the distressing part is that they have had intense fear that they've now associated with an unfamiliar dog. And now they knew Dad, they'd met him before, but he shows up with an unfamiliar dog, and they can associate that kind of fear-related aggression with both of them now. And cats are masters of something in behavior parlance we call one-event learning, which, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. One event like this, one really intense event, and cats will associate that kind of emotional response. It's a classically conditioned response for the rest of their lives. And it certainly towards Max the Golden Retriever, but it now can be any unfamiliar dog. And in fact, because Batman redirected toward his brother Thor in that moment, because, you know, he was there and he was close by, they can maintain an instant hostility toward that other cat, even though these little guys have been brothers and together since day one. That doesn't sound logical. This kind of thing happens. Well, the good news is that Batman and Thor went on from there, and they did okay. They did not develop any kind of acrimony or hostility between them. So this whole thing could have turned out worse. And Marley is still doing okay too. He didn't sustain any injuries. The people did, and as much as Thor lost some fur when his brother went after him, neither cat got injured. But, you know, that little boy Bobby did. Pretty unsettling. And, you know, here's what they really could have done differently. You know, they didn't talk to me about, you know, Dad didn't call me and say, gee, I'm thinking about visiting, you know, my former wife and the kids and bring our dog. And he didn't call me to say, you think that's a good idea, right? No, they didn't. But they might have thought it through a little better, because they all knew that Batman in particular had a history of always going to that bedroom, which was little Annette, the 10-year-old girl's bedroom, every time he heard visitors at the door. Cats know right away if it's one of their family, and this cat would immediately recognize that it was not, and would immediately run under the bed and stay there. So when you see a pet who has that kind of behavior, every time something may start to go in a way that upsets them, we need to let them do that. And in fact, both of those cats should have been allowed to stay in that bedroom, the door closed. And, you know, in a perfect world, there's really nothing to be gained by Dad bringing in his big, silly golden retriever, Max. You know, Max loves the kids. They get together often. And Max, the big golden retriever, gets along fine with that little family's dog, Marley. But they could have gotten the dogs together and the kid and Max, the golden retriever, together some other place. But even if they felt strongly about bringing Max into that little house, that door should have stayed closed, and those cats should have been protected from this intense fear. So yeah, these are very sweet cats, and that's part of the big surprise on this. Nobody expected this because, well, they're such sweet cats, and they love their own dog. Well, yeah, but you know, they don't have the familiarity with a whole lot of other dogs. And this can happen, this can happen with visitors, human visitors that the cat just doesn't know. So anyway, you look at this placid little family like this, I don't know if you can see this picture very well, and you think, well, they look like they're happy and relaxed. They should be able to handle just about anything. Not necessarily so. All right, well, let me see who Tony here. Okay, well, Pete is here. Pete, where are you from? Do we know you? And Kimberly is here. Where are you from, Kimberly? Tell us where you're coming from and what kind of creatures you have. I want to hear about that. I'm just delighted that, oh, and Vicki is here. Vicki, have you been here before? Martha, wonderful to see you. Misty is here. Excellent. Thank you guys for coming. Somebody else just sent a comment. Okay, Charlene. I've met Charlene here. Tony T, your little head's in the way. Okay. Have you ever spoken of or have an opinion on dogs who are caregivers to another older pet that ends up getting ill themselves? Could it be stress of failing health on his brother? Yeah, we see that all the time. And that's an important question, Charlene. And again, anybody is welcome to ask me anything about pets that's off topic. I don't care. Cats can do that too. And let me give you a really good example. I don't know if you can see Tony here, but he's sitting right here next to me and I'm petting him. Tony's pushing 15. He'll be 15 in November. And by the way, last week I talked about him a little bit. Just earlier in the day, I had taken him to the emergency and specialty hospital here in Albuquerque, where I practice, where I see my behavior cases. Because we've been treating him for kidney failure, which is a given in cats this age. He's already had his benign thyroid tumors treated successfully, but he just wasn't keeping weight on. And so I took him into our internist, Dr. Ann Hale, and Dr. Hale did an ultrasound of his abdomen and got some x-rays and prescribed some medication, which we compounded, which means a custom special pharmacy mixes the medication with some tasty liquid. Often I use fish, but this pharmacy said, the pharmacist at this place called Wedgwood Pharmacy suggested marshmallow and chicken. A lot of cats like that. I've heard of that, so I said, by all means, because my own cat isn't very good at taking pills. So I should be embarrassed about that, and I am. So anyway, that's on its way. We haven't started it yet, but he's feeling a little better. So, Tony, would you like to come back up here and say hello? Come on, son. Jump up here. Come on, baby. He says he's thinking. Maybe he'll do it. See if the spirit moves him. Anyway. So when our wonderful border collie passed away a couple of months ago, Miss America, she would hang out with these cats, and they were pretty darn good friends. It wasn't like they took vacations together necessarily, but when she passed away pretty suddenly, Tony was pretty upset. He would just stand and look and walk around a little bit and look again. And that is when his appetite took a dive. And I've been, frankly, struggling to get it back ever since then. So cats who are not considered a highly social species, he was pretty deeply affected by Miss America's passing, and so was everybody else in the family. And our cats and our dogs feed off our emotions. So when you look at a dog, like your situation, a caregiver for an older dog, that is a very strong bond. And when we see a dog pass away, and there's another dog in the home that's very attached, that can lead to real trouble. They can become depressed behaviorally, and their appetite can be depressed, and their movements and their activities can become depressed. And we can, sometimes it's important to do something about that. Antidepressant medications that are fairly quick acting can help. They're seldom needed long term. Extra activities with that dog. What I like to suggest in many cases is food puzzles that are interactive with the person. So you can go to a website called Nina, N-I-N-A, Ottoson, O-T-T-O-S-S-O-N, there might be two N's, NinaOttoson.com, and there's a growing variety of interactive food puzzles that you can work with your dog. And it's sort of a shared game. Your dog who's grieving needs a lot more connectedness with the person who he loves and trusts. And so that kind of thing, you can throw the ball if your dog likes that. Anything your dog enjoys, go for longer walks. Try to give that dog opportunities to engage in behaviors that work well for him. And let him grieve. But boy, help him out and watch his appetite. Some pets, especially cats, will concern us a great deal if they stop eating. A cat in particular who stops eating completely for 48 hours can die from that, regardless of why it lost its appetite. A really negative cascade of events starting in the liver can end an otherwise healthy cat's life if they stop eating for 48 hours. So we take that kind of stuff pretty seriously. From a behavioral standpoint, there's a lot that we can help you with. There we go. We have 4 cats in Albuquerque. I have not been here before. I'm going to need your help at some point with our little cat crew. Oh, Vicki, you're welcome to contact my office. Go to my website, drjeffnickel.com, drjeff, NICHOL.com, no S on my name. And there's an enormous amount of information I've been loading in there for years, and it's searchable.
Zoom group next Wednesday's cats.
And, thank you, Carolyn, we've been recently added to our behavior consultation options. I still do initial consultations that are 2 hours long and very in-depth. Those are important for severe behavior disorders. But for people who just need to gather information, you can attend a Zoom group consultation. We do those most Wednesdays at 4 o'clock, and you can register for that on my website. Right there on the home page. It's really easy to do. Just click that button and use your credit card. And next Wednesday at 4, we're doing one on cats. So jump in and gather some information if you like. Somebody else had a question. There we go. I've been watching videos and learning. Excellent. Julie, wonderful. I'm glad you're here. Have you ever, let's see, caregivers for cats. Let's see, I think that's all the questions so far. Kimberly is here. Hello, Kimberly. Aaron is here too. So I'm glad everybody has come. So let me tell you a couple of other things about cats. This business of them feeling trapped. Remember, they're indoor pets. They belong with us. They're wonderful indoors, but it's not necessarily a setup for success. So if a cat's hiding, let them hide, okay? Anybody got an angry cat out there for other causes, let me know. And just another takeaway from that story about this family is many people are inclined, especially if it goes after a child like Bobby's head, they want to grab the cat and get a hold of it and put an end to the problem. Well, they can redirect, they can stay highly agitated, sometimes for 48 hours, and they can claw all over anybody, and you can't, get loose of them. So you need to grab a blanket. If it takes a half a minute to do it, take a half a minute and grab a blanket. And you can cover the cat with the blanket, or you can protect yourself or somebody else, use it as a shield. But you absolutely use a blanket. Do not spray with water. Do not swat. And don't get rid of a cat if you've had that problem. That can be, we can deal with that stuff, okay? In almost every case, we can improve these behaviors. The brain is a very complicated organ. That's where all behaviors start. We don't promise that we can guarantee results or improve everything. But the truth is, nowadays, there's a whole lot of research that supports what goes on up here. Not just current learning theory, but the pathology of the neurologic connections and the neurochemistry, and in some cases medications that can help rebalance a problem and get these things, get these pets feeling better and improve their function in the home. So we never say never except in extremely complex cases. So quiet, secluded place first. And that's actually the big takeaway from that story. If these people had it to do over again, they would have let those cats stay in that other room, close the door, and then let people visit. Now, someone else had a question. And that question came from, here we go, Michael Sanfilippo. Michael, thank you for showing up. We're planning to add a puppy to our home next year, an Irish Wolfhound. I'm sure he'll have lots of questions for you soon. Michael, you're welcome to contact me. Michael is one of the primary leaders of the, well, Michael, you can tell me exactly. I forgot what your title is. He works for the American Veterinary Medical Association, which is our big primary professional organization in veterinary medicine. And they are an essential component in putting together the annual Continuing Education Convention, which unfortunately this year was done virtually. But the good news is that we can get those lectures we don't have to have attended at the moment, and they're available to us later. But Michael has helped me tremendously in attending that meeting and connecting with other veterinarians in that whole situation. He's been a wonderful help over the years. So a couple of brief research papers. You know, I like to share some of this stuff. This is one called Human-Directed Aggression in the Cat. It's from a journal called Veterinary Clinics of North America. I co-authored a paper on cognitive dysfunction in that journal once. And this one, I'll just read you a couple of sentences. Feline aggression between cats or directed at humans is, after inappropriate elimination and urine marking behaviors, those are the most common behavior problems in cats, but right behind that is the second most common reason that cats are seen by behavior specialists. And I can tell you from my practice, that's, consistent. For diagnosis and treatment, it's important to determine the motivation of the aggression. And that's essential. It's very easy for us to say, well, here's a problem behavior, just like any other physical symptom. This pet is coughing. This pet has diarrhea. What do we do about it? Well, you can treat the symptom. You know, you can give a cough suppressant. You can give Pepto-Bismol. Symptomatic treatment can be mighty important. Dog is itching like crazy. Yeah, let's make that misery stop, right? Well, how about the underlying cause? How about doing something long-term to improve the problem? We're always looking for the underlying cause. So aggression is not a diagnosis, it's a symptom, all right? So that's the point that they're making here. The common causes for human-directed aggression in cats include play, fear, that's what this story I told you was about, petting intolerance, and that's very common, and that's not that hard to manage in most cases, often because it's caused by really uncomfortable skin in cats who are itchy. They don't always scratch a lot, they have other symptoms. But if you have a cat who just takes a swing at you when you pet them, don't panic, don't punish, seek veterinary help, okay? And redirected aggression, which of course happened in this other situation with Batman going after first his brother, Thor, and then after a little 8-year-old Bobby. All right, here's another paper. This one was from Applied Behavior Science journal. Risk factors for aggression in adult cats that were fostered through a shelter program as kittens. Risk factors for aggression in this little subset of cats who came from shelter programs that were fostered as babies. You know, we look at different subsets of the population, just the way they do with human research. So here's just a couple of brief points on it. The odds of owner-directed aggression were higher in female cats. Sorry, but that's the way the numbers shake out. And lower in households with 3 or more cats. So if a cat lives in a household with other cats, they tend to have more social skills and be less prone to freak out. Not a reason to, you know, become a cat hoarder, but if you just, for your information, if you're a 1 or 2 cat household, don't change it just based on this statistic, but understand that your cats may be at higher risk of human-directed aggression and manage around that problem, okay? And also more when the cat parents of these kitties reported using positive punishment. What the heck is positive punishment? What is positive about punishment? Who enjoys punishment? That's not what the positive part is about. When we talk about positive punishment versus negative punishment, positive is when you add something in, negative when you take something away. So when we inflict positive punishment, which I don't do or recommend, you're adding in an aversive, like yelling, swatting, spraying with water, hitting, electric shock. Okay, we don't do that, right? And so when people do that, because that's all they know to do, those cats have a greater risk of owner-directed aggression. How about that, huh? Negative punishment, by the way, is when you take something away, like the interaction, like you ignore. And then when you catch them doing something right, you go, good kitty. And cats do respond to positive verbal reinforcement. Anybody want to come over here and say hello? We have visitors here who want to see my cats. Gaston's on the floor there. He's on the portal. Anyway, so Carolyn, if you ever think you want to put him in my lap, maybe he'll stay here. I don't know. So for novel people, like people that the cat doesn't know, or objects and situations, the odds of aggression were higher when your owners use positive punishment. and the odds of severe aggression toward other animals was lower when the cats were provided with training enrichment. That includes hunt and pounce toys, climbing structures, hide boxes. All that stuff really matters. Okay, so I got a little surprise here this time, and then we'll quit. I wanted to share some information about the Pet Poison Helpline. This little meeting isn't about poisoning, but you know it can happen to any pet anytime. By the way, if you go to my website, you can subscribe at no charge. Go to drjeffnicol.com, drjeff, Nichol.com, no S. And at the bottom of the page, the home page, you'll see that you can subscribe. You just put in your email address. And every Tuesday morning in your email box, you will get my my weekly, what we call the media blog, which is my newspaper column from the previous week. Most recently, I had a 4-part series on a pet cat we had in the veterinary hospital I used to own, who was everybody's pet, and who started out with a very challenging injury, and she taught great lessons and got well. So you'll find that in questions and answers from pet parents. And also every Tuesday morning, and that you'll get automatically if you subscribe, is my Facebook Live. So, you know, if you didn't get a chance to watch when I was on, or go to my Facebook page, it'll end up in your email, and you can share this with any of your pet-loving friends. And I encourage that. I'm just, you know, trying to bring out the best in pets and their people, and I think these things accomplish a lot of that. I hope so. So here's the thing with the Pet Poison Helpline. They just sent this out recently. They worked with a man named Jeff Gochoco. I don't know Jeff Gochoco, whose 9-year-old golden retriever named Buddy decided that his family's home improvement materials looked, tasty. And here's a quote from Jeff Gochoco. I had built 2 planters and was getting ready for the next season by putting together a mixture of materials. I had included some mushroom compost and bone meal. Well, I can tell you from my many years doing emergency work in general practice that dogs like bone meal. So when Buddy came in from the backyard, his person noticed that he had a bunch of dirt on his nose, and then later that day he began to vomit. And the mushroom compost caused a big worry for them because they didn't know what types of mushrooms were in the material. Yeah, because they can kill. So he called the emergency hospital, who referred them to toxicology professionals at the Pet Poison Helpline. They have board-certified veterinary toxicologists there. It took Buddy a few weeks to get back to normal, and now, that's a long time, they watch him like a hawk. He recovered completely. Well, Buddy ingested an unknown amount of mulch, straw, fertilizer, plant food, and potting mix, resulting in multiple instances of vomiting and other GI issues. He was a sick pupster. In this case, this is information from the Pet Poison folks. In this case, types of chemicals that were swallowed did not cause systemic poisoning, but many household fertilizers and insecticides are deadly to pets. If your dog has off-leash access to a yard, or you take her with you outside the home, be aware of what sorts of plants, products, and other potential hazards are in the surroundings. Just as you would with a young child, you need to be aware of the possible dangers facing pets. Well, the Pet Poison Helpline, that's based in Minneapolis, is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for pet parents and veterinarians and their staffs. Thank you, Carolyn. And the veterinarian... Come back here. Don't eat tea. Stick around with me, would you, for crying out loud? These things are available for all species, dogs, cats, reptiles, everybody else. They have a $65 fee, but that includes any follow-up, and you can go to petpoisonhelpline.com. Okay? So, you know, you should keep that handy. So, all I want to tell you in closing is that you should encourage everybody to take the time to build a foundation of trust and choice and freedom for your pets before asking them to do things differently for you. Because dogs and cats, just like people, will become obstinate if their leader only wants their needs met. Our pets can learn any time during the relationship that they can trust us not to intimidate them. They're mighty forgiving, and they can share a lot of lessons with us. And is there anybody else? Let's see. Other questions? Boy, Darren, let's see. Anybody else? Oh, Corey is here too. Wonderful. Jim List. Thank you for coming, Jim. And I think that's everybody. So thank you for coming. Tony T, can I give you a little hug before we sign off? You're a little fussy little rascal tonight. Thank you for coming. I hope everybody has a great time. I'll be fishing next week, so I'll see you in 2 weeks.